So welcome everybody to the Mailbox Power Brain Trust. It is a fantastic morning this morning where we are going to help somebody use the Mailbox Power platform to attack a specific problem and achieve an amazing goal. So today's persona, today's guest is actually a live person. She is an amazing business entrepreneur. Okay, so she's an amazing business entrepreneur, and here is what she is trying to do. She is looking to book herself on 50 podcasts in the year 2022. Okay, so she is a podcast guest. She is trying to get on 50 different podcasts in 2022. So here's what we know about her. Number one, she does have the executive account, which means she has 200 free cards given in any given month, and she definitely wants to use the platform. Okay, that's number one. She is an actual really good guest when she is a guest on a podcast. Okay, so when she is actually booked on a podcast and she does actually perform for the host of that podcast, she's really good. She's pretty experienced at that. Okay. She used to, in her past, do a lot of podcast guesting and then just got lazy with it. She didn't really have a system. She didn't really have a process to keep herself top of mind with those folks. But she's done a lot of podcasts in the past, but she just kind of became lazy. Okay. When she is booked on a podcast, and she is actually on one, she usually turns that one podcast guesting slot into 2 or 3 additional podcasts that she's invited on. Because she is good, the podcast hosts usually recommend her 2 or 3 times out on average. Okay. 1 out of 10 podcast hosts of hers becomes a super fan. And when I say a super fan, it usually either means they do business with her, they become a super fan and introduce her to other people, but they become a super fan and they build out a deeper, meaningful relationship. Okay. She does not have her own podcast at this time. Okay. She does, however, have a small email list. She does have a very high social media presence, and she is very, very well networked. Okay. And she estimates that every time she's actually booked and on a podcast over the long haul, it results in between $500 and $1,000 per show of revenue to her business over time. Okay. So we have a podcast guest. So let me repeat what we know about her. Okay. She wants to get booked on 50 podcasts in 2022. She's a really good guest. She used to be on a bunch of podcasts back in the day, but she became a little bit lazy. She wouldn't want me to call her lazy, but that's what it is. When she's on, she's usually really, really good. Usually one show will turn into 2 or 3 additional bookings because of referrals. About 1 out of 10 hosts that she works with becomes an absolute super fan. She does not have her own podcast. What she does have is she has a small email list. She has a pretty decent social media presence, and she's very, very well networked. And she believes, by her own estimates, probably not 100% data driven, that each show that she's on results in between $500 and $1,000 in revenue to her business. And she's on our executive account here at Mailbox Power. Okay. So with that, let's help this gal get on some podcasts, shall we? So Marla, you're up.
My first question is, what does she want to talk about on the podcast?
I'm going to keep that doesn't in the category of doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. So then
I'm saying that I know what she does.
Okay.
I want to use this as a more broad for anybody that's looking to get on podcasts.
So she can start by doing a mailer, postcard mailer to people that she's interested in getting her podcast on, advertising herself as being able to, and what she will help them do, because she wants to offer what she's going to help the podcaster do, not just what it's going to do for her.
Okay, so what could she put on there that would she be able to help the podcaster with?
Growing his following.
Okay. And how is she going to help him do that?
She's going to help him do that by having more people view. She can, when she puts it on her social media, he can put it on his social media, and they can grow viewers and then potential customers in the future.
Okay, awesome. So one thing I heard from that is she could actually use the postcard system, send out postcards to other podcast hosts with what she will do to help promote the show if she's booked on it.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. Great job. Sanchez's.
You said she has a small email list, I'm assuming, and maybe this is wrong, that would be past podcasts that she's been on.
Not really. These are people that have come in through her social media or through, this is not a list. She does not yet have a list of podcasters.
So I would encourage her to make a list of past podcasters and send the I Need Your Mailbox link, because she's already been on their show. It's already a know, like, and trust. She's already been referred. You said she gets 2 to 3 other bookings off of every podcast. I would reach out to all the past shows she's been on, get the I Need Your Mailbox, and attached to that would be a super cool package that would go out with brownies, or better yet, the journal with a laser engraved pen, because you said it's $500 to $1,000 she gets from each one. So I put a really cool package together and just say something like, just going back through all of my past podcast interviews and remembered yours, and just wanted to reach out and say hi and send you something cool because I had a really great time on your podcast, just to reintroduce herself and get that going again.
Okay, so she's going to reintroduce herself. Okay, perfect. And we'll call this with a mailbox, master box, right?
A magic box.
Mailbox magic box. Okay, awesome. And in that one, you're going to put a journal and a pen and maybe a brownie.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. Marie Benoit.
Well, actually, Brenda just shared my idea. Thank you, Brenda, for doing that. But I would go back to that email list and send out an email to all of those people, and maybe not even ask about or sharing that you want to be on more podcasts. You don't have to do it that way, but mention podcasts that you've been on, as you're telling a story, so to speak, and that being on podcasts is one of your favorite things to do. And I think that sparks some conversation with that email list about, like, oh, I didn't know she would be a good podcast guest. So I would do that.
Okay, interesting. Let me take this one a quarter step further, because this is a good one, Marie. Maybe she could send that email out to her email list and mention podcasts and just say, hey, because I'm assuming most of the people on her email list are probably her ideal client or somewhere close in there. Maybe being able to say, hey, I love listening to podcasts. Give me a shout back and let me know if there's a podcast that you listen to.
Love that.
Which would be an easy way to find show hosts that have maybe her ideal client in their audience. So great, Marie. I love that one.
Thank you. Thank you for
Awesome.
making it even better.
Awesome. Who else? Helen.
I can't remember. Haro, Haro, help a reporter out. You could perhaps contact them with postcards, letting them know that you do podcasts, because they may know people who need podcast hosts. And there's also a website, and I can't think of the name of it, where it's podcasters looking for guests. So why not send them a postcard with her information on it and a QR code that links to one of her podcasts that's about the topic that they talk about.
Okay, so Helen, let me ask you a question. Why a postcard?
Actually, she's got executive, so greeting card would be even better.
Okay.
I suddenly thought they get 200 on that one. Yes.
In my head, I know her pretty well. And in my head, when she says that she's going to make between $500 and $1,000 on each podcast, she's probably not thinking a free postcard is going to be enough juice to get in the door on some of these.
But with a greeting card, it will definitely be opened.
Yeah, we're using a lot of those postcards. I want to get us into the mindset of these greeting cards.
Yeah.
Awesome. Stephanie.
Not sure. She's a member of eWomen Network, but if she isn't, she might want to consider getting on an SBI in her area.
And what is an SBI for those of us that are eWomen ignorant?
It's like a mastermind, small group mastermind, about 10 people, intimate group for visitors specifically to market what they do. And if she is a member of eWomen Network, definitely send a greeting card or a package to her membership to let them know, because they are very active in the podcast world.
Okay, awesome. Funny thing is, I happen to be in email, so I got it. Perfect, awesome. Gail.
Well, I took my hand down because I am a podcaster that's been lazy. And so I'm getting ready to reach out to my subscribers and let them know that I'm revamping. And so I like all the suggestions that people have brought. And so I don't have anything new, but I understand from a podcaster point of view, when you haven't been active, you need to stoke those coals really good and let them know why you're coming back to the table, because you've been missing for a while. So I think that's really important to keep them informed. This is why I haven't been doing it. And she can just profess, I've been lazy, be herself, because that's who she is. But now I'm ready to get back to it. And I really, really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you.
So Gail, since you're kind of her ideal client in this particular case, in somebody that is getting a podcast back up and running, would it be beneficial to her if she sent you a coffee mug with your show logo on it?
I wouldn't turn it away.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So then let's reverse this a tiny bit. How do you decide who's a guest on your show or not?
I stopped having guests a long time ago, so I don't do that.
Okay, so you said you were revamping. Did I misunderstand? Because I thought
I'm
you said that
revamping my show, but it's a solo show. It's a solo podcast.
Okay, so you don't bring guests on it.
Not anymore.
Oh, okay. Well, perfect. Then she is not going to talk to you. Okay, perfect. Okay. Who else? Let's take a couple of more. Marie Benoit.
So, a part of being on more podcasts would be growing your list, because all the people who have heard you need to be reminded of you, et cetera. So I would suggest that she prepare some type of giveaway in the form of a card, some kind of content that would be of value to the listeners. And at the end of every podcast that she currently is booked for, to say something like, for those of you who would like a gift from me, I'm going to put a link in or somewhere, wherever it's visible, either with a QR code or whatever. Yep. And if you will provide your mailing address, you will receive the gift in the mail, and it will be a card with content of value on it. Building her list and then putting them on a multiple touch automation so they continue to hear from her.
Okay, now she does that, Marie. That's exactly what she does. She's just trying to get on more podcasts to get that link basically out into the marketplace more often. But that's exactly what she does. So great point on how she actually drives those people that she listens to. That's why she makes money from each show, right? Because she's driving them off of the podcast onto her email list and her MailboxPower list, and then being able to market to those people over and over and over again. So great. I want to keep this focused just a little bit on how she gets on more shows to be able to get that link out there more often. So great job, Marie. I love that. And
Okay, like, oh, unmute. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, like Stephanie, I would like to throw out Women's Prosperity Network, WPN. It's international and they do a lot of promoting for podcasts and everything, but it would be great for if she would just join that group.
And what was the name of it? Women what?
Women's Prosperity Network.
Okay. And they have podcast hosts that are on there that she could network with and figure out
Yeah.
who has a show.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
they have outline. Yep.
Okay. Awesome. Anybody else have an idea how we can get her on some more podcasts? Yeah, Gail.
Okay, I get requests all the time from people that are in the professional world of getting speakers to the podcast. So it might behoove her to send out greeting cards to those speaker bureaus to say, hey, I would love to get on some podcasts. Here are my subjects that I would like to talk about. So if she uses the cards reaching out to them, they're always looking for people to speak on and be interviewed on podcasts. And I get those requests all the time.
Gail, that is a fantastic one. There are event bookers, there are agents, there are event planners, there are podcast producers. That's a great one. Sometimes that gets really overlooked in terms of, in this case, what Gail's doing is she's not going to the end user, she's going to who has the customer of the end user, which I think is fantastic. Awesome job, Gail. Marie.
Well, I'm just following on what Gail just said. I would use the Gigagram to create, a really nice card about me and other podcasts I've been on, etc.
Okay, so almost build like a media one sheet or a resume in essence. Let's not call it a resume, but a sheet showing the other shows maybe that we've been on. Taking that a half step further, what we could do is inside of that card, just thinking out loud, when you list off a show, you could actually do a QR code that attaches directly to where that show is.
Right.
Right. And
Yeah.
I would send that Gigagram to all the previous show hosts as well, so they see that she's promoting their show as well. That's a great one. I love that.
Yeah. And comments that, people have made about her as a guest.
Yeah, so like almost like a movie poster of her experiences and what she talks on, and here's some examples. I love that. That's fantastic. Yeah, Anne.
I forgot to say that the owners of Women's Prosperity Network are members of WPN, of Mailbox Power, gold members. So
Okay.
So they know what she's doing, they know so anyway, that would be a really big help to her.
Okay, awesome. Stephanie.
Using the Gigagram, that's whoever mentioned that, was that Marie, putting, QR codes is great, but what about just transcript, like short transcripts of highlight reel type moments from the podcast where they called her out and said how fantastic, not necessarily a testimonial, but a snippet from each podcast she was on, kind of save time for the reader.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. Anybody else have any ideas how we can help her get on more podcasts? I love the idea, by the way, of sending a coffee mug with the show logo on it, because there is a high likelihood that will sit on that person's desk and they'll use it during the show. I mean, if I was doing a podcast called, Casey's Chit Chat, and I had a mug, it would be actually pretty dang cool to have that on my desk. I don't have a podcast called Casey's Chit Chat, but that's a great one. Yeah, Stephanie.
There is a search program. If you are familiar with Jim Edwards, copywriter, I'm looking for it and I can put it in the chat, but there is a search for podcasts by type, and you can create a list. You could probably even do that in LinkedIn, is create a list of, because you can be on any podcast, but sometimes you want to be on specific podcasts that have large following. So creating more of a targeted list using some search functions of strength, I guess is what I'm talking about, more than just any podcast.
Awesome.
Finding specific large following type.
Awesome. Awesome. So I'll throw out one, and then if we don't have any others, we'll wrap this up. But if you have one and you're thinking about it, we want to get this in here to help her. But one thing I've always found is the podcast game is a referral business like almost any other. All the podcast hosts talk, they all know each other. They know who's a good guest, they know who's a bad guest. And a good guest is usually brought back in times of when a guest falls out, when a guest is there's an open slot, or maybe if they're really good, they do you on a multiple rotation. So maybe it's 4 times a year or 2 times a year. And sometimes that top of mind campaign can be really helpful. I know in the actor world, like when somebody stars on a show or they have a part on one of the new movies or whatever, they'll send out a card announcing, hey, I'm on, Yellowstone this week, come check it out. You could do that as a guest. When you're a guest on a podcast, she could take, hey, spread that out to all the other podcasts that she's been on that says, hey, listen here, I'm going to be on the blah, blah, blah podcast this week or next week or whatever. So it gives the ability to keep in that conversation. So I love that idea as well. Anybody else have an idea on how we can get her booked on more podcasts? These are great. She's going to love this. Going. Okay. Well, I think we have enough here where you're going to help her get booked on 50 podcasts over the course of the next year. I'm really excited. She is one of our executive account holders here at Mailbox Power, and the power of the mailbox is going to really help her grow her business. So with that, I'm going to shut the recording off. We'll stick around and do a final wrap up. Fantastic job. Thank you all for participating in the Mailbox Power Brain Trust this here Monday morning. Okay.